though it does say it allows you to share documents, they can't get into the documents. They don't without a Google account, even though it says that you can, even though you've got it. So it's gotten so frustrating that
what happens is,
yeah,
because when you share a document with a person's email, then it wants you to create them an account on Google. It doesn't have to be a Gmail account, but you have to authenticate that that email you sent the document to is a real person. So it forces them to take their, it could be like a work email and assign it to a Google account. And some people have issues, you know, different organizations have issues with that too. That's why the wiki probably tends to be a little, the SLA wiki tends to be a little easier for sharing stuff because
yes, like getting people to go use it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've tried that route too, because I've been using wikis for a while.
Yeah.
I found it. Now I'm wondering if Rebecca, have you had any problems getting people to collaborate, to actually collaborate? Are they willing to collaborate?
They're
That's
starting
the
to.
side.
Yeah. They're starting to, and some people do it better, you know, than other people. And because we're all in the same domain, it makes it an easier way to share. When you're sharing the document, anyone within NGS.org has access then to those documents, if you so choose.
Can I say something? When I was working, we had a whole lot of trouble with Google anything. With firewalls, with everything, with
well, and that could be the organization setting.
Well, it's the whole DOD. It's the whole.
Yeah.
Sometimes the whole federal government, as a matter of fact. And I mean, Google's great, and I see that it works for a lot of things. And now I can use more Google things since I'm not a federal employee anymore. But there are some limitations, and I see why Mary's people are having problems.
Yeah.
Or some of them might be having just basic firewall problems that there's no way around. I mean, you know, one person cannot get the organization to completely change their way of doing business. And I'm glad that there is an alternative site such as the SLA Wiki site that they can use, because otherwise, although you know Google's got a lot of stuff going for it, it's just not the only game in town. That's the thing.
Right. Well, and I think the issue too is if, but Google is approaching federal government.
Yeah, I know that. I'm trying to sell them.
But they may not, you know, they may not be able to approach to everyone. And even in the federal government, you see the whole world of different tools groups are using for their wiki platforms, for their blog platforms, for their. So it's interesting because you always, it's like, why doesn't the federal government even standardize on which platforms? Like, I'm surprised that sometimes different agencies can use MediaWiki, whereas other agencies aren't allowed to use MediaWiki because it's open source. But why can someone like CIA and State Department use it, but then someone over here in, you know, Patent Office can't use
Well, they're
it?
probably using a different level of security, and
Yeah.
that makes.
And they're all different IT groups.
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that, addressing Mary's question, another organization that I belong to, pardon the expression, but it was, I'm on a NACIG committee, and to get around that security thing where everybody having to set up an account, what the chairs have done, it's been 2 years, so it's different chairs, have set up the account with a username and password, and then given us that username and password,
Yeah.
and it works fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody having to set up their own account, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. And PBWiki's sort of like that too. I know people sometimes have shared, they set up a PBWiki and then shared a username and password. I think Diane Schnurpus
I think
did
she did that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the Google Docs thing, it's a nominations and elections committee, so we have to be looking at lots of stuff that way, and the Google Docs approach has been just fine that way.
And I think things are changing, but they change slowly, especially at federal government level down. But even other organizations, different law firms, you know, who can't be able to access. That's been part of the issue with the board. This actually leads me, exactly, into,
Send me.
do you all want the lights off, or is it okay to see?
I can't see much of anything.
Please,
Sure.
can you see okay? So at our board several years ago, Nerida Hart came on our board, and she's from Australia, and she was like, we really have to use Skype, but in the United States, not everyone can use Skype, and she didn't ever seem to get that, that not everyone can use Skype. I mean, most people were open if they could. So what I figured out to do was, you know, you can call phone numbers with Skype, but then you're charged, not a lot, but you're charged something. And if I was the person calling, I didn't want to have to be paying for 5 different phone calls out. So there's a service called Free Conference Call that you can dial into, so it counts as 1 call from Skype, even if 10 people dial into the free conference call. So that's actually worked pretty well for our board. But then we started wanting to take it another step forward and record the sessions of our board meeting. So if people couldn't attend, they could listen to it. Even though we would have minutes, sometimes hearing it is a little more lively. So I talked to Marie, because she's hip. And she is Pipcast. And I was like, well, if I wanted, and also the thing is, Free Conference Call would record, but it would be a WAV file. And then I'd have to find something to convert it, because I really wanted it to be an MP3 file. So then I tried Pamela, which was a service that would have cost me like $54. It downloads to my desktop, but it kept causing my Skype, people not to be able to hear me on Skype. If I closed it down, Jane Dysart, Nancy Dixon, and I were all doing a practice virtual conversation, and Jane's like, I can see Karen typing in Skype, but I can't hear her. So Pamela wasn't going to work. But then at Computers and Libraries just last week, someone's like, well, Free Conference Call has other services. So I went out and I saw this freeconferencing.com, and it can record MP3s. Very easy. It's all web-based, so I can control the recording through the web. I call it from Skype, and then I pull in all my little Skypers. It gives you a number that people can call into. So it really, the combination of Skype and free conferencing is going to kind of work. What we're trying to do is build these virtual, what we're calling virtual conversations, because since we're KM, we were only offering mostly programs at the annual conference versus having them maybe a couple programs throughout the year. So we're going to try to do like quarterly talks with different leaders. So our first official one is going to be May 3rd with Patrick Lamb. So he's in Singapore, just 12 hours difference. Naird is going to be the facilitator. She's 14 hours difference. I'm taking care of the technology stuff. And then we're going to have anyone who wants to join in the conversation. I'm going to have them first mute. I can control the muting of phones so you don't have the echo. And then they can unmute when they want to ask a question. So we're going to test it and see if that works. And we're going to try Patrick in May, and maybe Steve Ressler, who's the Mr. GovLoop, the founder of GovLoop, in July or August. But, you know, again, another kind of service that perhaps we could start offering. And I've seen where I could probably submit it to iTunes as well. So one, different marketing opportunities for KM, and also different ways to enhance people who maybe can't get to annual conference. I think